Today, I've got a top goalkeeper in, Marcus Bettinelli. How you doing, mate?
Hello, lads. Thanks for having me.
My dad used to make me cry as well, mate. I openly admit that.
It's an absolute therapy session coming in. At one point, my mum banned him from coming to the games. I modelled my whole game off him. It was the best season of my life in that sense. I didn't go into the manager's office because I was petrified of him. He was so scary. So we went like 23 games unbeaten or something like that. How am I going to pay for this winning? I'm unemployed for the next 2 months. I didn't enjoy my time at Borough, and like on Twitter everyone was like, he's wearing Schwartz's gloves. Like,
that's so fun.
There is levels to the game of goalkeeping, and these guys are on a different level. You use your feet to save a ball. It was an absolute crime. Probably more nervous for them training sessions than I was like walking out Wembley for their final, just because it was just so surreal to me in that sense.
What a save from Mark Howard.
Welcome back once again to the Yours Mine Away podcast with me, Mark Howard, and my mate producer Ben. Today I've got a top goalkeeper in, and I've heard he's an absolute great guy. I can say he is already. Marcus Bettinelli. How you doing, mate?
Hello, lads. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in, mate. I really appreciate it. Obviously, you're at Chelsea now. I want to get into that further down the line and that. You've had some career so far. Still only 30 years old, with loads more to come, mate. Promise you that. I'm 36.
Don't know about that.
Right. Normally, I kick this off with how you first ever got into being a goalkeeper. What's your journey?
Well, I think throwing it back really when I was younger, I say blame my dad really, probably more blame him because he chucked me right in and I had no real choice. But yeah, he's always been involved in goalkeeping. He's a goalie coach himself, so from a sort of young age, I was always just chucked straight in, whack some gloves on. I think probably one of the first memories of me being in goal was always wearing goalie gloves that were way too big for me. Because my dad used to just sort of take them from,
For those that don't know, your dad's Vic Bettinelli, that's been at Fulham Academy for hundreds and hundreds of years, mate. It feels like that. I think I've actually worked with him, you know.
Yeah.
So when I was at Arsenal in the academy, I tried to leave because I knew that like getting through in that first team would be ridiculous. So I went on trial at Everton and Aston Villa, and I went to Fulham, and I nearly signed for Fulham.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I worked with your dad.
Yeah, you would have done. I think everyone in the goalkeeping world knows Vic. You've either spoken to him at some point or seen him because he's unmissable. He's a big fella, but yeah, he's like you said, he's coached for years, so. He always just chuck me out in the garden, and my mum's still got videos now of us in the garden. Like 9 times out of 10, it's me storming in because I'm fuming at him for scoring goals past me. But yeah, that was going back a few years now.
Yeah, did he used to critique you loads, or was it always like, you're doing brilliant, you keep doing this? Obviously, really positive and make you like feel amazing.
Nah, none of that.
Yeah,
it was.
My dad used to make me cry as well, mate. I openly admit that.
It's an absolute therapy session coming in. Just talking about my dad. No, he was so hard on me. At one point, my mum banned him from coming to the games when I was at Crystal Palace. And funny enough, I always remember like the game he got banned from coming. I remember at half time walking out for the second half, and it must have only been maybe like, I don't know, maybe 10 or 11 or whatever. I could just see him with a like Peaky Blinders cap, leaned up against a tree, like in the background watching the game. So I knew he was there, even though my mum had banned him. But yeah, he was tough on me, but. It was good. He's got his own ways. Was you always going to be a goalkeeper then? It's a bit hard not to.
Yeah,
I mean, first of all, I was always too slow to be anything else. So I always loved football in that sense. But you know, it's like I think when you watch your dad, and he was goalie coach at the time, so I used to watch him going out sort of like Nigel Martin and Alex Kalinko and stuff, and you know. That for me was like a huge thing. Like my dad was warming up on the pitch, like you wanted to be him. So yeah, I think it was impossible for me to be anything else.
Yeah, and you signed at Fulham at 14 years old, I think it was.
Yeah, it was. I got released from Crystal Palace for being too small. Ironically, I think it was just an excuse to say you were rubbish.
What size are you now?
6'4". Yeah. Went over to Arsenal, and it was just too far for my mum and dad to go. And then so I signed at Fulham, John Motor Academy director at the time. About 14, and just stayed there.
You worked with Alex Welsh at Arsenal then, briefly?
I did, yeah. I did. I feel like everyone's worked with Welsh in there at some point. He's top man, to be fair. So yeah, I worked with him a little bit while we were there.
Yeah, and then obviously you went to Fulham and that. You ended up spending a hell of a long time there. What was the initial scouting process? Do
you know what? It's funny because, it was a long time. But I think when I first joined, I mean, I'd be the first to say, and if my dad was here, he'd be the first to say as well, I was never that top goalkeeper. I was always sort of really underdeveloped, hadn't sort of hit sort of puberty and stuff at that age. Where I remember sort of fellow goalkeepers were massive, they had beards and everything, and that wasn't me at all. So I was always sort of the late developer at the group. So yeah, I signed there sort of like a young 14-year-old. And I didn't play that many games, to be honest, when I first signed. I was more kind of like a number 2/training goalie, really, when I think back to it. I mean, I didn't really think of it at the time as that. But yeah, well, now I'm more experienced, I would notice that now. But yeah, and it was just sort of one of them things. It was a good academy. Fulham have always done really well with bringing. Yeah, it's a top academy. I think it was like back then. I mean, they had like the 3G and the 4G, whatever it was, and that was like a huge thing, and the big dome and stuff. So the academy itself was always great, and they've always done really, really well bringing players through. But also, I mean, going back to Vic, he's brought through a lot of goalkeepers, either playing in the league or Championship and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's always been a good academy.
Yeah, Fulham always had a good steady stream. It was Fulham and Charlton. If anyone was from London, like they always consistently brought through, especially goalkeepers as well. Charlton brought through loads in one spell. Like Fulham was another club where the Chelsea's and Arsenal's of this world, you didn't really see many people come through and actually break through to the first team. So you must have seen a really good pathway when you did sign your YTS papers. Yeah, definitely.
I think that back to it now, I don't think I ever saw a pathway through to the first team. I think when I first started going on loan, I mean, Mark Schwartz was there at the time, and he was incredible as a goalie. So I always thought, wow, like I'm going to have to go on loan and work my way up. But yeah, I knew that at Fulham you would have got a chance. And I remember my dad always said to me, don't get disheartened if, all my mates were playing up, Chelsea and Arsenal and stuff like that. He was like, he knew Fulham was the place to be for me. So like you said, it's catch-22, isn't it? I think when you, as a goalkeeper, it's always hard when you're young. You want to be at the big clubs, and it's great, but also at the same time, I think sometimes when you coast under the radar a little bit, I mean, a lot of the boys you probably had on here, or the boys that play in the Prem or the Champ now, will probably say the same as me. They kind of just coasted, and they were always maybe below a little bit of par, and they managed to work their way up.
Yeah, see, obviously I came through at Arsenal, but I always wanted to leave.
Yeah.
Because I knew that there was no pathway.
Yeah.
So the whole time opposite. I was like, I didn't really know about loans because like I said, I'm 36, I'm old now. So like the loan system wasn't what it was. So I was like, I had to try and leave. So at 16, before I signed YTS, I tried to leave. Before I signed my first pro, I tried to leave. And like they were saying, no, you can't leave. We want this compensation. No club would buy me because I was a young kid that unproven. So yeah, it's so different how it's interesting to me coming through at Fulham where you could see a bit of a pathway, but you knew that you had to go and gain experience to come back. Like that must have been really rewarding in itself, because obviously when you did eventually go out on loan, you had a couple of really good loan spells.
Yeah, well, even I think it was Mick Kelly at the time, who was a goalkeeping coach. Even he would like get us to come up and train with like Schwartz and David Stottler at the time. And even that, I used to think, I don't know if other clubs are doing this, because when I would go away to England camps and stuff like that, they were like, oh, we trained the first few times with the first team, but not that much. So I always remember thinking like, oh, well, we get quite a lot of opportunities to go up, and I think even before Mike was like Mark Crosley and that, going back even further with like Tony Warner and that. So yeah, there was always that fine balance of they would get the kids to come up, and even if it was just a service, I mean, you'd be absolutely bricking yourself just trying to serve a football, like just a normal half volley, like you'd be absolutely wetting yourself.
Especially if Tony Warner.
You don't want a big bonus running after you. So yeah, but Fulham's a good academy. It was always good.
Obviously, you worked with some really good goalkeepers there then, and had some really good goalkeepers to learn from. Mark Schwartz must have been, at that time, it was incredible.
Schwartz was unbelievable. Like, I'll be the first to say I've modelled my whole game off him, even though it's impossible to model yourself off him because he was so quick for a big guy, and I don't think people realise how quick he was. I mean, from a goalkeeping point of view, to get his hands down low so often, he never really used his feet. In terms of making saves, he always used to be just so sharp at getting his hands down. And for such a big guy, he was even bigger than me. I think back, like, wow, how'd you even do that? But yeah, we also had people like David Stockdale and stuff there who had done like the non-league side, and obviously moved up when he was at Dartford. So you had like literally both sides of things, and it was like, when I think back, it was an incredible sort of experience for me to learn off, and probably put me in such a good position to go and have a career. So I was lucky in that sense.
What was Dartford like, your first loan then?
I absolutely loved it. Yeah. I absolutely loved it. I remember I was bricking myself when I first went out. And the good thing was I actually trained at Fulham still because they were part-time.
Yeah.
And I still got a few mates that play there now, actually. It's a great club. But yeah, that was my first sort of taste of like men's football. And I always just remember thinking like, I remember my dad saying like, it's proper football this, mate. Like, you know, just kick it. If you got to kick it, you got to kick it. Like, don't worry about
take any chances. Yeah.
And I always remember thinking like them first couple of games was like the win bonus. And obviously it's something that you never really like speak about or think about, but like when you're playing academy football, it's just academy football. You're getting your money at the end of the month anyway. Whereas obviously away at like Kidderminster or someone like that, you're winning 1-0 with like 10 minutes to go. It's like maybe 500 quid on the line. Do you know what I mean?
Did all the lads get round each other at those points and say, you make sure you don't concede, we're getting a bonus?
Oh, huge. Yeah.
Buzzing. Was it a little brown envelope job as well?
It wasn't a brown envelope job. I wasn't part of the bonus scheme, so I never got a brown envelope. So I don't really know how they got it.
So Dartford still owe you.
But I'll invoice them after this. But yeah, it's that them little things are just, I think, what makes you like just come together as a dressing room, especially in them last 10 minutes. If you got to hold on for a win and it's sort of £500 on the line, it's huge. And they were top lads. Like they knew I was a young lad. They knew I needed protected a little bit. And you know, the whole squad was top.
It set you up perfectly then to go out on loan to Accrington.
It did, yeah. It did. And I spoke about Martin Brennan just quickly before this. It was Brennan's sort of philosophy about, mate, get yourself out on loan, and my dad was supporting that as well. So yeah, the whole Dartford thing come about, done really well there, and then League Two at Accrington, that was probably my first time sort of moving away, so it was quite a big thing.
To Accrington of all places.
Yeah, thankfully I lived in Manchester, so it wasn't that bad. But that was hands down sort of my most enjoyable year of football, because I met sort of my best mate there now, who's still my best mate now. We lived with each other, and then we lived with another lad. And to be honest, when I think back to it, we were playing on a Saturday, going out Saturday night, and then playing on the Tuesday and going out Tuesday night. And it was like Tiger Tuesdays, whatever it was called. It was like it was the best season of my life in that sense. We basically lived like students. We lived in Fallowfield, which was an absolute dump. And like we would tell everyone we lived in Didsbury, which was a nice area a little bit behind.
First time away from home, just living the life.
Yeah, my mate banters me about it now. I used to have like super noodles and like chicken and coleslaw for dinner, and that was just because like it's all I could
paper
cook.
Plates and plastic cutlery, so you didn't have to wash up.
We had no leather on the sofa whatsoever, and it was just like I absolutely loved it. I literally lived like a student, but we were playing league football and we had the best time. But yeah, it was also another good loan move. James Beattie was manager at the time, and he's a great guy.
I played with Beats. He is a great guy. He's got Tourette's, definitely.
100%. He's an incredible finisher.
Yeah,
he used to join in finishing, and he used to absolutely smack it.
Every time he scored, did he play that trumpet noise? At Sheffield United, he used to do this thing. And he'd score a goal in training, and he'd run off, even if it was a tap in, and he'd like pretend to play a trumpet, and it made the best trumpets. It was like like your secret talent. I can't do a trumpet noise. But his was like unbelievable. So it's like he knew he was really good at this noise, and he'd run away playing this trumpet. It was class, mate. And you'd have everyone in stitches, and it would be a 2-yard tap in. It'd nick someone else's finish. Celebrated it like it was the best goal ever. Loved him for that.
Beats was top, man. He messages me now every now and again, but he's a good guy. Beats, really good guy.
Right, before we crack on with the Fulham stuff, I'm going to get you into the quiz. I'll give you a little brief already. Goalie or no goalie? So I've got 5 current international goalkeepers. That's the biggest clue. 5 current international goalkeepers from around the world. And 5 names that are either made up or famous people from around the world. Subscribers and listeners, you can head over to YouTube for our leaderboard. We'll have to update that now.
I'll say, there's let's not forget about O'Keefe either. Connor O'Keefe. It was 9.
Was it 9? Yeah.
Was 9, yeah.
If I beat Al, I'm happy.
Yeah, that's what everyone says. As long as you beat Al.
Alex
I think you'll
4.
do better than Lonas as well.
Cut's being goalie coach. He's got to be higher than a 6.
There's a few people that we need to get in, see what the scores are like. It's the surprising ones. Honestly, the names that are out to trick you, right? Okay. So you won't know many of them, if any of them. Right, so 1 point for each correct answer. Number 1, Alessandro Catalan.
Goalie.
Not a goalie. He is the Italian host of the Eurovision Song Contest. So these are totally random, right? Honestly. My missus comes up half of these.
I was for sure thinking I was a goalie,
It sounds like a great Italian name. Right, number 2, Pedro Gallis.
Goalie.
He is a goalie. Peru and Orlando City goalkeeper.
Nice. 1 out of 2.
Number 3, Etrit Berisha.
Goalie.
You're going to say goalie for everyone, yeah? Well, you got 5.
Yeah, exactly.
Take it, walk away. He is a goalkeeper. Albania and Torino FC goalkeeper.
That was pretty good pronunciation for you, Mark.
Yeah, that was a really
Yeah,
good
that
one.
was good going, yeah.
Berisha, I thought, yeah, got that one. Some of them are so hard. Some of the names I write down, I'm like, oh my God, why have I picked
Why have I done it? Yeah.
Why have I done
Stitching
this?
myself up.
Yeah, 100%. Number 4, Jake Sully.
Not a goalie.
You recognise that name?
Why am I thinking of the geezer from Avatar?
That's him, mate.
Is that him?
That's
Yeah,
him,
quality.
Jake Sully.
Yes.
Yes,
Buzzing with
nice.
that.
Sam Worthington in Avatar, nice. Honestly, some of them are totally random. Right. Number 5, Hans Wilsdorf. Hans Wilsdorf.
Not a goalie.
He is not a goalkeeper. I know you're into your watches.
Yeah.
As we previously spoke, he actually invented the Rolex.
Yeah. I didn't know that,
You
but
did not
quality.
know that,
I should know that, but I don't know
Nah,
that.
you shouldn't know that. Who would know that?
Big Al probably knows that.
Yeah, to be
Hey,
fair.
you had who invented the washing line, the whirly
Oh,
washing line last week.
That was
I
a good
think.
one as well. Right, number 6, Anthony Maurice.
Goalie.
He is a goalkeeper. Luxembourg and Union St. Gillois.
I don't know why I'd actually
in
heard
Germany.
of him before.
Yeah, how have you, yeah.
I don't know
Hey,
why.
look, you're beating Alex.
Yeah, nice. Tied with honours now. Yeah, how have you heard of that?
Don't know. It just sounded familiar, that.
Ah,
Could be a wild guess, but
right. Number 7, Gordon Sargent.
not a goalie.
He is not a goalkeeper. He's the number 1 ranked amateur golfer in the world.
I didn't know that, but I thought you were trying to do me the old Sam Sargent, like throwing
Yeah.
off one. I thought you were trying to throw me off.
Mate, some of them are. I've had some really good throw-off ones as well, mate. They're just good blaggers. Right, I think we're on number 8, Oliver Sale.
Goalie.
He is a goalkeeper.
That's
You're on
an
fire
absolute
here.
Guess.
New Zealand and Wellington Phoenix goalkeeper.
Looks a bit like Dean Henderson.
Got a trim and a half him.
That's a shout.
I don't think Dino will be happy with that.
Not happy with that.
Nah. We'll cut that bit out for you. I'll be straight in his DMs. You heard this bit, what Bet said? Right, number 9, Hope Seguin.
Not a goalie.
Not a goalkeeper. He's the original child singer of Baby Shark. This is where on YouTube, mate, when it comes up, there will just be loads of sharks flying across the screen now. Ben's mind goes wild now.
That's class. How have you come up with these, by the way?
The thing is right, I'll get superimposed into this now of me singing Baby Shark. Right, last one. You're on 8, flying, mate. Could go tied to lead here. Number 10, Mark Flecken.
Not a goalie.
Oh, you've ruined it. He is Holland and SC Freiburg in Germany goalkeeper. 8 out of 10, mate. Well
I'll
played.
take that.
That's very good.
Honestly, I set out to be Al. Once I got past Al, everything else was a bonus.
At least you recognised 2 names and one was Avatar.
Yeah, the Jake Sully one absolutely done me.
Yeah, that's good.
I was
That,
buzzing
mate.
that. I'll take 8 all day.
8 out of 10.
Gotta be happy.
Got to be happy, mate.
Yeah, I've
Got
got
you
to.
right up there.
Take it all day.
Right, let's crack on anyway, right? So, as I said, you've been at Fulham since you were 14. Your debut actually came 12 years after signing in a 1-0 win against your rivals, Brentford. That must have been amazing to eventually reach that point.
Yeah, it was. I think like everyone always says, you do need a bit of luck in terms of goalkeeping, and I had a massive slice of luck in terms of Fulham got relegated, and they sold Stocko. Stekelenburg was there at the time as well. Stekelenburg left, and it was me and Jesse Gironin, 2 young lads. And we had an absolute mental gaffer called Felix Magath. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he was like nuts. Like, he was German. And he was meant to keep us up. And he was like, honestly, I can't tell you how nuts he was. We were doing like 6 a.m. beach runs. Like, people were crying. His whole philosophy was he tried to break you. So like the lads would have like grade 4 in their calves and that, but they knew if they went in and said I'm injured, that was him. They were on the transfer list. They were gone.
Way.
Yeah. So I got lucky in that sense. He only had me and another young lad to pick from, and he chose him ahead of me. And then we basically lost the first like 5 games, like all like 5-0 lost. And I got a chance in the cup. And yeah, I was buzzing, to be fair. I just remember thinking like, F it, do you know what? Like, if you go and you have a stinker, so what? Like, you played for Fulham first team. That's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was my mentality at the time. And yeah, it was. And then I played really well, get the clean sheet, and then come in dressing room after the game. My phone was obviously like going mental and that. And I just seen on Sky Sports Fulham had signed Gabor Kiraly. So I had all these like messages saying, "Oh, like buzzing, mate, you'll be playing on the weekend," all this kind of stuff. And then literally I saw they signed Gabor. So yeah, I didn't play the next 2 games, but then managed to get back in after that. But yeah, no, playing against especially against Brentford as well, like rivalry and stuff. So yeah, it was quality.
Yeah, obviously, like I said, you'd been there a while, and it takes so many different points, and you'd have had highs and lows on the way, and actually thought probably on the way that you wouldn't eventually play for the first team. But so when you get to that moment, the come down of like your emotions, because you put so much into that one moment, it must have been, like saying, to see that off Gabor Kiraly on the news and that must have been draining a little bit.
100%. I think it's one of them ones. I think I was still so buzzing with obviously the fact that like I had played. Your emotions, like you said, they're sky high.
Yeah.
And you've obviously got all of your family and your friends texting you. So I wasn't even really that bothered about the old Gabor thing. It was only then sort of like the next couple of days when I'd see him in the training ground and I realised...
his tracky bottoms.
Yeah, his tracky bottoms, which, to be fair, he was an absolute legend.
Was it?
Yeah, he was a great guy. He used to do this throw where like he would literally look all the way over there and just throw it that way. Like no one knew what the fuck was going on. But no, he was a top man. But yeah, it was only then obviously the last couple of like days sort of going into like the next game. I think it might have been Reading at home or someone like that, or Reading away. And I realised I wasn't playing. That's when I was a little bit gutted. But I think that's when you just got to keep your head. And I didn't go into the manager's office because I was petrified of him. He was so scary. So I just sat there and took it, and then managed to get a chance a few games later.
Are you a Fulham fan?
Do you know what? My mum's from Liverpool, so I've always kind of been a Liverpool fan. But then when I joined Fulham and then I played for Fulham, it was kind of like I lost interest in.
That's what I was.
It's like you end up losing interest, didn't you?
You just become a fan of football.
Yeah, exactly. I think probably when I think back to it, I was more a fan of like Stevie G at the time rather than actual Liverpool himself. I think I kind of fell in the category of being a Fulham fan because you forget like when you're in the academy, you go and sit and watch the games.
That's what I mean. Every game every home game you're there.
That's what I mean. So like before I'd even played for the first team, I'd probably watched maybe 100, 200 games at Craven Cottage. So in that sense, it's mental to think like, oh, you're not a Fulham fan, but you do have that feeling. But then again, when I left a little while ago, that kind of then leaves you as well. So you kind of support, I guess, the team you play for as such.
Yeah, you went on to play over 100 games for Fulham, and you was part of 2 promotion teams there. Obviously, Fulham and their fan base in London, it's always going to be difficult. So in your spell within the first team there, to have 2 promotions, obviously one of them, like the first one must have been amazing for you.
The first one was the best one because I think people forget the season before we lost to Reading in the semis.
Yep.
So like you had the emotion of, it was practically the same squad pretty much. So you had that whole emotion of the year before getting so close but not there. And then at like January time, I think Butts had played the first sort of 15, 20 games, wherever it was. And then I got in, I'll tell a story actually, I got in just around Christmas time. And we had our Christmas do. And we played Sunderland away, so we organised it. We organised it to go out in Newcastle after the Sunderland game.
Just makes so much sense.
It makes so much sense. Everyone's there. You can't get away. Sunderland hadn't won at home in like 60 games. They'd only scored like 10 goals at home. It was something ridiculous. Like the stat was like ridiculous. And we had our Christmas do plan the night out. And I remember a few of the boys getting on the bus like, it's just absolute stinks of us losing. Yeah, they haven't won at home in like ages. We were having like a mid like so season.
Top's booked.
Oh, literally everything.
Yeah.
Everyone's done the old fine budget and everything, and it was like it just stunk a bit. So yeah, we lost 1-0. But then we had our Christmas night out. To be fair, the gaffer let us have the night out. We had the Saturday, the Sunday, 2 of the best days ever. We come back and then we didn't lose it then until last game of the season. So we went like 23 games unbeaten or something like that.
Yeah.
And we all banner and say like, oh, it was from the night out.
Yeah.
So it was
that team spirit just
yeah,
built. Yeah.
exactly.
Sometimes it's needed, that the adversity that you go through in a loss or something, especially away from home. It's a difficult place to go anyway.
100%.
So then go and then just put everything to bed
100%
that night straight away.
100%.
Have a few beers with you.
Without-
You had quite a few characters in that dressing room at the time.
Yeah, we had a good dressing room, like a really good dressing room. Obviously, Kev McDonald was probably the biggest character in that. But then you had boys like Steph Johansson and then Tom Kearney's there as well. He's top man. And then to be fair, we signed Mitrović just after that as well, which was always a good addition.
Yeah, that does help. Guaranteed 30 goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Big Mitcho and Matty Target were the two like sort of main signings that we signed. So them two definitely helped. They didn't come on the night out, but we'll just pretend like they did for the story.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I bet they came on the end of season one. They got promoted.
To be fair, that was that was incredible. That one. We had a good.
Because you went up via the playoffs.
Yeah, we done playoffs.
Which they always say is the best way to go up if you go up.
So we actually could have gone up automatically. We played Birmingham last game of the season. Cardiff played someone at home, and Cardiff also were on a ridiculous run. Neil Warnock at the time, I think it was, and we needed to win. They needed to draw or lose, and we were getting beat 2-0 at half time. And I think they then took the foot off the gas, and then I think they might end up losing 2-1, and we could have actually gone up. And again, that was just obviously added to the emotion of then. We then went to play Derby, first playoff. We got lost 1-0, and all of a sudden everyone's like, "Oh, the wheels are falling off!" Like back-to-back losses, and we absolutely battered Derby that day. And then we come home and we battered them again, and we went to Wembley, and we done it that way. So I think like that season, obviously you said obviously the second time was great. I weren't obviously as involved, it's always completely different, even though it's a great feeling. But the first one, I think even the boys that probably done it twice, I think they would always say like the first one was super special.
Yeah, obviously going up via the playoffs. I want to know a little bit about that night. Obviously winning at Wembley is insane in itself because every child grows up to want to play at Wembley one day. But to win a playoff final knowing that you get into the Premier League, do you just stay in the dressing room and just have a drink with the boys? Is it like you go straight up, see the families?
We had a room booked back at the hotel, not from the club. It was more from like a few lads got together and said like, listen, like whatever happens, like okay, like it's an incredible day. So there was like 6 of us that paid for like a floor, and we just said right, we can send the families there after because it was carnage because you only get sort of like 2 or 3 tickets for like the lounge thing at Wembley, and I got quite a big family, especially from London. So I had like 10, 15 people going to the game. So I ended up buying extras and sticking them in the stand. So obviously I wanted to see them after the game. So that's the reason why I booked that. But yeah, after the game was just, do you know what? You spoke about earlier about like the emotion of like the day you come down. I'm going to be honest, I was absolutely shattered. Yeah, I was shattered. And first half we played facing the sun, and it was like 30 degrees that day. And I remember like every time we got a corner, I would run up to the halfway line and just go down on my knees because I was like, get out of the sun. Yeah. There was just no way to do it. And obviously it was just like the whole day, it was just everything about it was just absolutely shattered. And I just remember being in the lounge afterwards, like had a few beers, and I remember just my phone was just like ridiculous. It was impossible to get through. So many messages. So yeah, that night we went, we saw the families, we carried on drinking, and you try and soak it in as much as you can, but it's always hard.
That's the thing.
Yeah, it's hard.
It is hard. You don't remember a lot of it in the end.
You don't.
But you feel like you look back at it and you go, I should have took more of that in, or I should have took more pictures, or I should have just. It is what it is. Like you said, you're so tired from the game, and you've put a whole year into that one performance. Yeah. The come down's so hard, but then obviously a couple of days later when you realise what you have done, that's when it kicks on.
100%. And I think the first time is like relief. When you're in the dressing room after, you're like relief, like we've done it. Whereas then like the next day you're like, right, we've done it. How are we going to celebrate this as best as way possible? So to be fair, the Fulham owner, Tony Khan at the time, he took us on a trip to Vegas, which was incredible. Practically all expenses paid for. So nice. That was a good 4 days. So yeah.
Obviously, when your final season at Fulham, you ended up joining Middlesbrough on loan. Can I ask a little bit about how it was leaving Fulham? Was you like, obviously, you must have felt a bit tied to the club coming through there, and that must have been quite a hard thing.
Yeah, I was gutted, to be honest. I was gutted, and I think I was gutted in the sense of I was meant to re-sign.
Yep.
So there was the season I was on loan at Middlesbrough. I always had a good relationship with Tony, and we were organising a year option. They had an option on me, so we were organising that year option. And then, so be it. Whatever happened, it didn't work out. So sort of that from like Christmas up until that time, I was always prepared. Right, I'm staying in Fulham. I'd just done my house up. I was finishing my house, and we had everything planned of just being in London again. And then obviously, like that, it just changes. So yeah, I was on holiday actually in Mykonos, and I proposed to my missus. This was like maybe the Tuesday. So you're on a high from that. And then on like the Wednesday evening, Tony called me and was like, all right, mate, like we're not doing the option. And I was just like plummeted that down. So my missus was still on this massive high. And I was...
She's phoning everyone, and you're telling her not to include the last bit of news.
I'm thinking, how am I going to pay for this wedding? I'm unemployed for the next 2 months. So yeah, it was a bit mental like that. But when I left Fulham, it was sad because I didn't really know anything else. Yeah. So it was sad.
You had a really good loan spell that season anyway at Middlesbrough. I think you played nearly every game that season.
I played nearly every game that season. And from a game point of view, I had a good loan season, but I hated it.
Yeah, just being away from home, being away from London.
No, I just didn't. You know when you're having them games and them seasons, and just goals go in, and you know you can do better. Yeah. And like I'll be the first to say, like I didn't enjoy playing. Didn't enjoy playing up there because I wasn't playing well. Yeah. I enjoyed living up there. My missus did. Like we said, I was right on the golf course, so that was amazing. But yeah, I didn't enjoy my time at Borough, and there was probably a few factors to it. So I think coming back from Borough, I was happy to come home and be back in London, I guess. But yeah, it was always tough. Obviously, then finding out I wasn't going back to Fulham, so I was like, what am I doing now?
Next?
Yeah.
This is Matt Smith, and this is the glove review on the Yours, Mine, Away podcast.
Right, before we crack on with where you are now, then at Chelsea, I want to talk gloves.
Okay.
Obviously, you're in the One Gloves now. We get loads of interaction off our fans that listen to this and watch our YouTube clips and that. Can you talk us through what size hands are you?
I'm a 10. Yeah, 10. Yeah. I think I've experimented a little bit with tighter gloves and dropped down to a 9 at some point. But yeah, I've always preferred a bit of a larger glove. So yeah, I'm a 10. Yeah.
How long have you been wearing the One Gloves for? You've been with them a while, haven't you?
I started them when I joined Chelsea. So it was like a year and a half ago. Yeah. So before that, I was Adidas for the season at Middlesbrough, and then prior to that, I was always Cells. Yeah. And then when I was really young, coming through Mark Schwartz or Mitre, which were quality. The Mitre ones were quality. To be fair, I think my debut that I played, I actually had Mark Schwartz here, and I literally scribbled it out with pen. And I think like on Twitter, everyone was like, "Oh, he's wearing Schwartz's gloves." Like,
that's so funny.
He's not got his own gloves yet because he's so young and that. So yeah, I literally had Schwartz's gloves on like my debut.
Was he just giving you all his gloves? His hand?
Like, yeah,
the
so
ones that he didn't use.
I actually had I had a deal with Mitre, but they stopped making the glove that Schwartz wore. So I had maybe like 10 pairs left over, and I was like, right, I got to save these pairs for like big games that I'm gonna play. So I had like my training pair, which were like, they were probably similar colour to them, and then the ones I actually wore in the game, they were like a black and a green, and they were just like, they were my special gloves. You know what I mean? They were the ones that just fitted perfect. You just felt so comfortable with them. So that hence the reason why I wore them on the debut, and I probably wasted them in the first 10 games thinking, I'm only going to get 10 games, I better use them all.
Stick with them.
Yeah, but
what is it you look for in a pair of gloves?
I've always liked quite a tight fitting, but still loose enough that it's not like I can't feel my tip of my fingers. Yep. I've never enjoyed thick palms. I know some lads love like big, thick, heavy gloves.
Big, massive mitts.
Yeah, big mitts like Fabianski. Sometimes I look at it and I think like, mate, you look like you've got the biggest gloves
are
on.
Too big for him.
Mate, he's either that or he's got shovel hands. I'm not sure which one, but yeah, I always quite like tight fitted ones. And yeah, I mean the latex is the one, isn't it? Really? Yeah. I think it's all about feeling comfortable.
Do you have certain routines with gloves? Obviously, this changes because of training or games. Do you have certain routines when you know you're playing?
I wear a pair of gloves probably every 2 games.
Yeah.
Depending on the weather as well. I think it's always and the pitch really. You know what it's like.
By the way, his gloves are green as at the moment.
Chelsea
They've gone
kitmen
for a
and the
spray
groundskeeper are going
spray
to kill me. Yeah, they're not
They
looking
must spray
great.
your pitches green.
I think so, yeah. They're doing something.
That is actually incredible.
So either that or I've been diving on the AstroTurf. But yeah, probably every couple of games I'll get a new pair. But yeah, now obviously I don't play that often. Sometimes I can go sort of a week.
A few weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say I'm a glove user, to be fair. I like to get a new pair of gloves. There's nothing better than banging a new pair. It's so good, isn't
You
it?
feel so much better putting on new gloves, new boots. I don't know about you. I can't
100%.
wear boots that are old and tatty. I'm the same with gloves. If they're starting to like get defects, I'm like, it's not the same. I'm not going to get that level of performance.
So true. It's mentally in. It's in your head. If you bang a new pair of gloves on like first like session, you like rip a bit. You're like, these are done.
Yeah.
They might as well be 4 or 5 sessions old. They're done.
Yeah. And like, even if you try and look after them, you're still in your head going,
Yeah.
I've had better gloves. It's like a mental thing, like how you look after them. I'm quite like meticulous of how I'll wear them on a Friday to play on a Saturday, and then I'll give them a light wash after the train on a Friday, but dry them in a towel.
Yeah.
Stand on the towel as if that like makes any difference, sucking the water out, and then I'll hang them up.
Is that what you do? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that superstition or is that just
No,
like?
it's just like that's how
that's
I
how you
think
do it.
I've got my gloves to be like the best that they can be, because they come with that original like coating on them.
Yeah.
Obviously, your gloves have got that plastic.
We got
on
the
them.
plastic on, which is an absolute nightmare to get off. By the way.
Everyone, I used to spend ages like picking it before games.
Yeah.
Someone's told me a trick, right? I don't know if it's true, but you can dip them in warm water or hot water, and
Yeah.
it just peels itself off. They just like, I need someone to try it.
I have to speak to Miles about that, but yeah, I've not heard about that one.
I don't know whether the water just gets underneath the plastic and then you can just pick it up.
Off. If I give him to the kit man, Ross, a shout out to Ross. He picks my.
Does he sit and pick them up?
Spends about half an hour just picking them all off. You can see him. He's like an artist, just like getting a little bit. Because if you rip it off and you rip the latex,
it's
you're in
gutting,
big
isn't
trouble. Yeah, but yeah, they are a bit of a ball ache when you got to peel the latex. So,
Yeah. Obviously, saying about your dad used to be able to get you gloves and that. What was the first pair of gloves you ever remember putting on?
Easy. A yellow pair of Sondicos.
Yeah, nice.
From TD Sports on Wharf Road, next to Armand's. Yeah, I'll never forget them. They were TD Sports. I think my dad like took a Crystal Palace shirt in and like made a swap deal with them. Yeah, and then after that, I used to literally have Cell Sports. Remember Cell Sports?
Cell Sports,
yeah. I used to literally have Cell Sports, and then Cells when growing up and stuff. So yeah, I've probably had every brand out there probably.
When you're young, you just go through them. And obviously, like, my dad was like, try and make them last.
Yeah.
That's saying
Impossible.
Like, oh my God, they last as long as they last, but it's so hard out there now.
Yeah.
There's like, we've obviously got loads of gloves on the wall, but there's so many brands out there now.
Yeah, there is. To be fair, like I know a lot of lads like put like Vaseline and stuff on their gloves to make them a bit stickier, don't they?
In the wet.
Yeah,
Super wet. I've
There's,
done
like,
that, mate. Yeah.
Glove glue as well. Like that works. Like
There's loads of products out there. They are good for like 1 or 2 games. They're brilliant. The glove glues and the sprays that you can get on your gloves and that, but they ruin everybody else's gloves.
Or the ball's just mad sticky. Like whoever's in goal after you, taking the next volley, they've got the best grip ever because they've got second-hand Vaseline or second-hand glove glue, and it's the best.
Mate, the Vaseline on the post, it works. In the wet, it really does work.
Young Joe Hart, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Your moment you signed for Chelsea must have been a bit of a surreal phone call at first. I know I say surreal, but you've been playing really well. You've been playing for Middlesbrough. I think you've done really well at Middlesbrough, mate. And the career that you've had at Fulham. I wasn't surprised when you got that call. I bet you some people would have been though.
Yeah. I think like surprise is the wrong word in the sense of when you think of Chelsea, they just won the Champions League. It was like, it's Chelsea. So yeah, I mean, I was surprised in the sense of it. I was going to go and sign there. Obviously, I knew the role that I was taking was a complete different role than what I had obviously done in the past. So it was like, it kind of felt like I was taking a step back as such. But also at the same time, I was taking a huge step up because I was going to train with players that I'd like, never seen.
Won the Champions League.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, them first few training sessions, I was probably more nervous for them training sessions than I was like walking out Wembley for playoff final, just because it was just so surreal to me in that sense. So yeah, it's a top club, and it's obviously going through a transition period at the moment. But yeah, when my agent sort of first called and said like, listen, I think Willie Caballero at the time didn't re-sign or whatever it was, and they were interested in me. I was like, right. I was like, like this could come thing, and to be honest, I didn't really have too much else on the table at that time because it was quite a late shout by Fulham for not renewing. It was quite late in the game, so it was a nervous couple of days, like trying to get it over the line. But once it was done, it was good.
Yeah, because obviously I've spoke to you off air about Andy Lonergan, who's both our friends, and he does that same sort of role now. But the first time that you get offered that role, it is it's a change in job title almost.
It is.
It must feel like that at times.
It is. Yeah, you're
but
right.
it's also a credit to you because it shows how good you are in a dressing room, how professional you are. It's also, a lot of people will see it as like a negative, but I think it's a massive pat on the back to it. When you reach a certain stage of your career and everyone goes, he can be trusted, he's great professional, great in a dressing room. It's actually all the things that you'd ever want in a goalkeeper.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more in that sense. And it's nice. And I think that's probably one of the things that my dad sort of always instilled in me, like whatever happens, you just be a good egg. And I think that's, like, people forget, a lot of goalies are good eggs. Like, I think because a lot of times there's only...
Strange.
Yeah, they're strange eggs, but they're good eggs. And I think because there's a lot of the time there's only two of you and you're battling it out, you've got a huge amount of respect for each other. So I think that obviously then puts you in a perspective of, okay, well, there's only one of us can play on the weekend. He's like top guy. I mean, 9 times out of 10, he's a top guy as well. Like, I'm sure he thinks I'm a good guy, but only one of us can play. So I think, goalkeepers are usually good characters in the squad, and I think we're always good there, and we're good communicators in the sense of we speak with the lads and stuff like that. So in that sense, your job's easy in that sense.
Because we see the game differently.
Yeah.
Because we stand behind 10
100%.
outfielders. We are able to coach and educate a little bit because we see everything. Like a manager sees everything on the side of a pitch. We just do the same from a different angle. So when we're playing, especially with the defenders, even strikers, because we know what we hate to play against. So especially when you're not playing, you end up finding yourself educating more people. You go around the strikers and go, oh, do you think you could do that next time? Or the defenders, you're like, if you just move here and covered that area, it would help us.
Yeah, I know.
I think that's one of the biggest things about how you'll be able to tell me more, but how your role has changed now that you're at Chelsea from being a first-team goalkeeper to now being a second, third choice goalkeeper.
Yeah, I mean, last season, obviously, when I first joined, a lot of the time, mate, we had so many games last season, it was ridiculous. And I think that's probably was one of the biggest things that I wasn't expecting, was the amount of games that boys play. And obviously, when you play in the Champions stuff, you also have a lot of games, but a lot of the time you may be playing Birmingham away on a Tuesday and you might get back maybe like 12:30, 1 o'clock to training ground. Whereas when you play Champions League games, you're getting back like 4 or 5 o'clock from like Germany or Russia or somewhere like that. Yeah. And like you then obviously have then got to be ready to then go and play on Saturday. And I've done nothing on the Wednesday. All I've done is travelled, slept, pretty much omelette, chicken fires, that's me done. And then pizza on the way back, and then I'm still shattered on the Saturday. But then these boys have played 90 minutes in between that and then got to reproduce it again. And I think that's what people don't see. So I think I've got a huge amount of respect for like the lads that have done that years after years, and even more so when they then go away at national teams.
There's so much put into recovery now.
Huge.
You must notice it, especially at like the elite level that you are. Like I know that we all do ice baths.
Yeah.
And you recover, you cool down days, and especially even as I get older, like it's like the second day recovery is the hardest bit for me.
100%.
Day
two.
Yeah, day two. I could, after a game on a Saturday, I could go and train full session on a Sunday.
Couldn't agree more.
But on a Monday, come on, bet it hits you.
It's true, that isn't it? I don't know why it is.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people say the same though.
Yeah, that second day recovery.
Yeah,
it's hard that.
But then it's like for me, I used to think like, oh, being number 3, like, are you going to be like training like every single day? Whereas so many days, like, because we have so many games, there's so many recovery days.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time, it's just me and the number 2 and the goalie coach is training, while the boys are doing like a light jog or something like that, because it's
spin session or something. Yeah.
Or inside like doing their like rubs and that, because there's so many games. Like I said, like a lot of the time we're not even doing finishing or doing small sided games, and that's, I think, like, it's been great this season because, I mean, it's not been great. Ed's is top man, but he's been injured a lot of the time. So I've been involved a lot more as sort of number 2. But last season was very much sort of like, not boring. Boring's the wrong word. But yes, I think it's tough to keep yourself mentally sort of like going, I think.
Can I ask you about Mendy and Kippa?
Yeah.
How good are they? What are they like? They're both totally different goalkeepers in theory.
Yeah.
But they're both so... Their agility and speed is ridiculous.
Yeah. People don't realise like how good they are.
Yeah.
Like, we will as goalkeepers, but people people just from the outset, they don't realise how good these lads are. I think their attention to detail, and I think I've done an interview a little while ago, and someone asked me like, what makes them so much better? And I was trying to explain the levels. Like, we're good goalies, and I've played with good goalies in the Champ, in League One and stuff. I know good goalies, but there is levels to the game of goalkeeping, and these guys are on a different level.
Yeah.
Someone said to me, "What's the one thing?" It took me about 5 minutes to answer, and I just said like patience. And you'll know what I mean by the word patience in goal. Like, people don't realise what patience is, but patience is having the ability to stand there, not gamble based off someone's body shape, and trust in your own body and your own reactions that you can react to whatever side they put it. And it sounds so simple when you put it on paper. You're like, you just stand there and you moved in line with the ball. But you know what it's like, the timing of like your preset, like where your hand positions are. The boys are just so patient and so reactive. And I remember speaking to Lonas about Alisson and stuff, and he was saying they're so powerful.
Yeah.
It's the same with Edu and Keps. Like, they are so fast, so powerful, so springy, and yet they're both so completely different goalkeepers. But yet they both have the same attributes that obviously keep them at the top.
Their set position, I've followed them, but they're how still they are. That's what when you're saying patience.
Yeah.
I think that they get into a position and they are just like a coiled spring. They're ready to explode.
Yeah.
Where like Alisson is all power.
Yeah.
And like
But he
he'll
can
make
do
a
it like
save and he can do it instantly. But like Kippa, for instance, when I've watched him play, when he gets set, it's like the whole world stops around him and he's just ready to just for everything that happens.
He's so calm.
Where Mendy is the most agile thing I think I've ever seen in goal. He's like a slinky in goal. He'll just throw his legs up.
Edu can spring from anywhere and get past the post.
Yeah.
Whereas Keps's reactive spring also gets him past the post. So they're both so similar, but yet so different. And it's like you said, they're always seem ready. Yeah. It's like they never have that second like double step that we might do as such.
A little hop or a little jump
Yeah,
before you set.
literally.
Yeah.
And the problem is when you're training with them every day, it's great because you're learning from them. But then the problem is you then go in and try and do that, but it's near on impossible to actually do it because it's not natural. Obviously, you can get better and stuff, but it's just a technique that they have and an attribute that they have that sometimes we might not have.
What would you say is the biggest difference between a typical English goalkeeper and a foreign goalkeeper? Is it that stillness, that spring, the agility? Because I always think that an English goalkeeper, typically, we're taught to catch everything, and it's to make everything look quite simple and basic, and save it, like just keep a quiet goal, aren't we? But the foreign influx is like show off a little bit, use your agility, use your spring. You've got all of this in your armoury, use it.
Yeah, I agree, and I think my dad always taught me hands. Like the W position, the scoop position, everything was about that. When I think back to it, did he teach me realistically how to like dive? Probably not. Did he teach me how to use like the block save and use my legs? Probably not. And after that, I've also had goalie coaches when I was at Fulham, like first team, and that like it was if you use your feet to save a ball, it was an absolute crime. Yeah. Like it was literally unheard of. Like no chance. My goalie's not doing that. But then you see the foreign lads and you see the Spanish boys and the German boys, like they're just so raw. But yet, at the end of the day, goalkeeping is about keeping the ball at the back of the net. Yeah. Like it doesn't really matter. Like I always laugh about the clip. Like I'm sure you've seen it of like Neuer, I think maybe when he's like playing Germany 21s and a free kick comes in and he just boots it away. Like, and it's like, imagine an England under 21 goalkeeper doing that. It'd be on Sky Sports the next day in game.
Ostracised.
Yeah, literally. You'd never play again for England.
Nah.
Like, but there's Neuer, one of arguably probably the best goalkeeper in the last 10 years. And he's just booting the ball away when he was like 21 playing for Germany.
That's the evolution of goalkeeping, is obviously the way we were originally taught as a youngster to now, that we have to evolve and develop ourselves along with that. And I think that the modern coaching is definitely doing that. You've got a couple of unbelievable goalkeeper coaches that we spoke about. I don't know if you can just give us a little bit of light on how that they all work together and also the difference that they can make in a career. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I've only been there a year and a half, but when I first joined, Hilario, who was played for Chelsea, he was huge on small details in terms of diving, and he helped me so much in terms of actual thinking about how to dive. And I know that sounds stupid, but you don't think about how to dive, but there's a process to it. There's fundamentals. and he's helped me in terms of like my foot pattern in terms of diving. And then you then obviously got Ben Roberts, who's come in recently, whose service is, I don't know if you heard about Robbo's service, but
I've heard about it.
Robbo's service is absolutely incredible. It's like he hits this wobbler and it stays the same pace and it just does all sorts, but it's just so realistic because half volleys and volleys are great sometimes to keep your hands warm and stuff, but it's a bit false, yeah. It is a bit false. And Robbo's like service is unreal. And then there's Sherm, who's got an unbelievable left foot as well. I'm just going to add that in there.
He does listen, James Russell.
Yeah, sorry, James Russell. Big Sherm, you're there, mate.
Rusty.
Big Rusty. And I think all three of them together, like the practices they put on are so realistic, so good for the modern goalkeeper, you say, because they tick all the boxes. Whereas sometimes, like, and my dad is an unbelievable coach and he's done great things, but probably back in the day, maybe the half volley, the volleys, the scoops and stuff, half volley lows and stuff like that, the dippers. I mean, there's always a time and place for them. I still stand by that now. But yeah, there's definitely evolution happening in terms of the goalkeeping world, and you can see it day in, day out.
Yeah, excellent. All right, well, I'm going to wrap it up there, Bets. I really appreciate you coming on, mate. I know you've got a busy couple of days ahead, and by the time this actually goes out, I'm hoping all's well with the family, mate, and you have a little one now.
Thank you very much, mate. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on, mate.
Cheers, mate. Loved it.
Thanks for joining us on the Yours, Mine Away podcast. I've been your host, Mark Howard, with producer Ben. What an excellent show it's been. Been great to speak to Bets. Thanks a lot, mate.
Thanks, lads. Appreciate it.
Take care, guys. Bye.
Cheers.
What a save from Mark Howard.